Welcome to Generation Digital Workforce, the podcast that's here to explore the role of robotic process automation and other digital technologies. Whether you're just getting started or you're looking for advanced strategies and tactics, if you're curious about where human and digital workers are coming together to transform the future of work, then this podcast is for you. All right, let's get into the show.
Hello and welcome to Generation Digital Workforce. I'm Michael Marchuk. Our guest in this episode is Michael McLaughlin, Alliances Director for Blue Prism Cloud. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you for having me.
So Blue Prism has expanded our offerings to include a software as a service offering with Blue Prism Cloud, but there's much more to it than just our standard robotic process automation platform. So maybe you could elaborate on that and maybe tell us a little bit about your background as part of Blue Prism Cloud.
Yeah, sure. So as you say, current role is the Alliance Director within Blue Prism Cloud, but I've been part of the company that was formerly known as Thoughtonomy, that was acquired by Blue Prism last July. And as you say, it acquired Thoughtonomy to allow it to offer a SaaS solution. And it's been really interesting that the transition into the Blue Prism family and how we've done there. So Thoughtonomy is actually would have been about 7 years old this month. It's always been built on Blue Prism, and it's very much expanded a lot of the areas for there. So not only delivered as a SaaS solution with the sort of Blue Prism capabilities, but we've added a lot of artificial intelligence capabilities, a lot of additional channels like OCR, web chat, web interfaces, self-service forms. So it's a really powerful sort of intelligent automation platform that hopefully will expand a lot of the areas that we as Blue Prism Group are looking to go into.
So we're going to go into some of the AI aspects of Blue Prism Cloud in a little bit, but Blue Prism has been able to be run in a cloud for years. What's different about the Blue Prism Cloud offering itself?
Yeah, I suppose really this comes down to one of the major reasons why they probably bought Blue Prism Cloud. It's Blue Prism is already a very flexible sort of platform in itself, and it has the ability to run, as you say, on-prem in sort of private data centers, public data centers. Public cloud sort of environments, but it's very much a sort of a build environment. You control, you manage to a certain extent the infrastructure, and you're taking the software and then building out the capabilities that you've got yourself. Blue Prism Cloud is a SaaS solution that very much focuses on allowing the client or the partner to consume a service to achieve an outcome. So basically, instead of you having to be in control or building out and managing that infrastructure, Blue Prism Cloud will take care of all of those aspects. So infrastructure, the management, the platforms, the SLA, the support of not only the platform, but all of the applications that build in there. So like the way that we have different workers with different skills and different abilities and experience, I suppose I kind of look at Blue Prism now as having a digital workforce that can actually offer different types of skills and abilities. And the addition of Blue Prism Cloud, I feel, adds an element of intelligent digital workers, but we are managing all of the infrastructure and technology for you, and you go and manage and get the value and drive the outcomes out of it.
So with all this intelligence that's built into Blue Prism Cloud, what have you seen accomplished using the advanced AI that's built into Blue Prism Cloud?
Oh, there's been so many exciting things, actually, and I do genuinely get very excited by these things. And if I just give you an example of a large finance company, they have a contact center in Dublin, but they have operations in Ireland and UK, France, Germany, and Spain. And what they have their digital workers doing is basically receiving emails. And the first thing they do is by using sentiment analysis, which is built into the platform, they understand how annoyed somebody is. So if the person's making a big complaint, and it feels as if there's a lot of unhappiness within what they're writing, it gets sent to an agent who actually is probably fluent in that particular language, and the person's able to deal with it very quickly in a very natural and obviously empathetic way. But if it's just a request that comes in and says, hey, I'd like a copy of my policy, what it's able to do is to take that, translate it, get into the back office systems, pick up the policy, providing all of the information and the security is there, and then send that back without ever touching a person and through there. So this ability to come in and maybe look at the sentiment analysis and work out how imminent the things need to be done, I think is very powerful. That also they're moving on now to how they can use translation services. So potentially they don't need to have a fluent native speaker to deal with that particular request, whether that be a sort of an exceptional type thing or maybe a complaint that goes through from there. But one of the things I really love about the platform is not necessarily the AI capabilities that are built in, although they're very powerful, and the fact that we can use natural language process to understand unstructured data is clearly a very powerful thing. For me, it's about what the platform can allow you to do to be more intelligent and be more creative with the types of use cases that you can really do. So another great example, which by no means is artificial intelligence, is within the NHS trusts within the UK. We in the UK, you receive a text message as a reminder. You've got an outpatient's appointment tomorrow. But what you now have the ability to do is use a text message to reply back and say, I'm sorry, I can't make it. But then the digital worker cancels that appointment for the person. It registers as cancelled. It then goes and looks at a list of people who may be waiting, and it reaches out to those people again via text message. Hey, we've got a cancellation. Are you free tomorrow at 9:30? And that has allowed them to fill up many thousands of appointments, which otherwise may have been missed or people didn't attend. And that, for me, while there is a load of AI built in and you can use those things, it's the whole collective parts of the platform, which include text messaging and the ability to have OCR and the ability to communicate via a chatbot, that allow you to be more intelligent with the way that you can use this digital workforce to sort of achieve and improve the outcomes that you're trying to aim for.
Now, once again, I always look at this as it's not a technology; it is the outcome. It is that end goal of what you're trying to accomplish. So, love to hear those examples, because it really does bring home the fact that we're not just selling software; we're selling these new capabilities to these organizations who can really change the way they do business and interact with their customers, in this case, their patients, which is great. So, because Blue Prism is so flexible with the way that it can be delivered, there's the on-prem and the cloud, and then now Blue Prism Cloud. I was kind of hoping you can help sort out when an organization would choose Blue Prism Cloud versus building out their own infrastructure.
Yeah, I guess there's a number of sort of factors, and obviously they'll be dependent, and there's lots of things I think here coming back to this flexibility across the Blue Prism group. But I suppose traditionally Blue Prism was always seen as maybe a large sort of enterprise solution, whereas Blue Prism Cloud allowed maybe smaller companies who didn't have some of the skill sets to manage infrastructure that was required maybe with this type of enterprise piece of software. So we've been able to aim at slightly sort of smaller tier 2, tier 3 type organizations rather than maybe the global 500, for example. We do have a number of global 500 customers, but I think the opening up of the market opportunity for Blue Prism Group is one of those areas. So smaller companies, because we can do a more diverse range of use cases, is good for us, and sort of that sort of typical 500 plus employees now is really opening out. I'd also go with companies that are really looking either through growth, or they're merging, sort of acquiring, that are bringing together, where they're finding themselves having to rapidly change what they're doing and how they work, and a digital workforce that has got a bit more intelligence wrapped around it really gives them the opportunity to think of developing new processes and what they're doing. The other area that we've been really successful in as Blue Prism Cloud is where people are looking at the sort of transformation, digital transformation, business transformation agendas. They're looking to open up new channels to their clients, to their partners, or even internally, and really allowing them to utilize digital workforce in support of their goals. And, we've got an example of a contact center that has allowed self-service forms, and rather than taking telephone calls, and they've dropped their call volumes by over 40% because they've now got self-service forms that their customers can go in and place their orders. And the good thing about those types of services is it's not reliant on somebody being in the contact center. They're available 24/7. The digital workers are available 24/7. So it really allows customers to think about how they can engage with the party they want to, whether that be customers or internally. And I think classically we've got to make sure that we are pushing the areas that offer real ROI. So where companies have got a lot of sort of legacy infrastructure is still very common to sort of the Blue Prism group in terms of that. And then finally, and I think this comes back to the creativity point that I'm looking to emphasize, that where they've got the opportunity of changing the way they work and looking at transformation, then there's potential to open up new markets and new revenue streams. And the classic question I always like to ask, Michael, is if I could give you 1,000 workers, what would you achieve? What could you do? And I truly believe that's the ability of thinking about digital workers in that sort of digital talent kind of respect. It does allow organizations to think about how they could get into new markets, how they could open up new revenue streams, produce and service new product lines, and go through from there. So I think it's very powerful in terms of that. So lots of different aspects I bring out there, but I think Blue Prism Cloud is a very powerful tool. And I think I probably just answered by saying probably everywhere. So
that makes a lot of sense, actually. But when you say everywhere, we're experiencing at this moment in time something that is affecting everyone everywhere, and that's this whole COVID crisis that we're all in. And you mentioned a couple things about working in a different way or approaching things from a new perspective. How have you seen Blue Prism Cloud being used during this time, and how would you see it be leveraged most effectively to support an organization who's trying to figure out how to do things differently now during this time of crisis?
Yeah, I mean, wow, talk about massive upheaval. Just firstly, stick with it, folks. We'll get through this together. It's an interesting time, and as you say, that this new norm, the working from home, remote working, virtual meetings, virtual conferences, virtual coffee mornings. I know we kind of do those kinds of things, and I suppose the big thing this is actually about the management of risk. At the end of the day, a company, and I certainly know that Blue Prism has done a fantastic job in this in terms of trying to look after the welfare of their employees and making sure that they can do their jobs. But it's actually not always possible, and certainly it's not possible necessarily to have access to the systems and applications. You may be driven by the fact that you've just got a PC and you've maybe got some form of assistant on that PC that you can't take home. And I think the real powerful thing that comes back to Blue Prism Cloud is that you've got this SaaS solution. It can be remotely accessed from anywhere, so you can allow control and it feeds into the corporate network. It's connected up by a VPN. And it comes back to this level of about management risk and digital workers, and actually Blue Prism across the beast being an enterprise server-based solution is going to allow an organization to have more control over the management of what the digital workers are doing, allow them to leverage the enterprise class nature of what they're doing. So I think the real thing from us is that the Blue Prism Cloud gives you the potential to rapidly scale up and down as well. So with COVID-19, if unfortunately there was some people who were suffering and ill, not able to access, all of these sorts of risk factors, we could actually a Blue Prism Cloud that can be scaled very quickly and allow you access to more digital workers that potentially could take on more of the work that you may have had with people who are running those types of things.
Yes, I think we've seen that in a couple different organizations where without these extra digital workers taking on some of the activities that people had been doing, those businesses would have been in a very difficult position related to their operations, and we're just seeing that generally speaking.
And I think just to maybe add to the things that one of the great things, and again, I'm not trying to do the advert for Blue Prism, but we've given hundreds of digital workers to existing clients and other customers, and to really try and help them out for a sort of 6-month period. And I know there's been hundreds of hours of professional service done and little things that have just allowed them to cope. There's obviously been a big focus on healthcare providers on a global basis. But the abilities of the digital workers to rapidly scale, rapidly be deployed from Blue Prism Cloud has really helped with that. And we've done some fantastic projects that makes me really proud actually to work for the company, and that ability that we've managed to support such as many of our frontline workers and care workers.
You've mentioned that we've done some projects. I was wondering if you could give some examples.
Yeah, as I said, I'm very proud. A number of different angles across sort of both public and private sector. Within the UK, the health and safety reporting by hospitals was basically a form that had to be filled out, and a relatively manual thing, and then somebody had to take that information off at the other end. And so what they've managed to do in terms of the sort of tracking of the virus and where it's the locations it's popping up, this has dramatically reduced the time from getting these reports and processing them from days down to minutes. If I look across at Australia, to do with hardship requests, and obviously there's a massive amount of requests that have come in all at one time, so they need to work out how they could bulk process and automate these tasks. The digital workers there were used to make sure that these hardship payments were processed as quickly as possible and get people the money that they require to help and support them. And then if it come back looking at vulnerable people and trying to make sure that they have the ability to order food and get deliveries from the supermarkets to them. So what the UK government did was ask each of the hospital areas, the NHS trusts, to deliver out vouchers to people on the vulnerable list that would allow them to get priority in terms of the deliveries and make sure that they have access to food. In that particular case, they're delivering over 120,000 vouchers per week out to that vulnerable list. And then in San Francisco, one of the ones I love is the sort of ability for a Californian. Let's start that one again. That wasn't very good. And then lastly, one of the areas that I particularly love is University of California, one of the world leading institutions, and they're focusing on the sort of designing vaccines and the cause and what's the makeup of COVID-19. And as you can imagine, that's an extremely computer intensive process with lots of sort of manual effort. So the digital workers are helping there to transform, sort and categorize the data, and then working with artificial intelligence software techniques. They've been able to shorten the time in terms of that design and understanding of what's in the molecules and what's in COVID-19, how it's built up. So pretty vast and hopefully very helpful in terms of their. There's a load more information actually on the Blue Prism website if anybody's interested.
And I would definitely encourage our listeners to go out to the Blue Prism website to see how many different scenarios that our Blue Prism digital workers have been able to support during this time of crisis. And very excited to hear just these few that you just mentioned now, because it really shows some true impact that our workers, our digital workers, are having during this particular time. So I really appreciate you pointing those things out. So what's one thing that you want to make sure that our listeners are going to take away from today's episode about Blue Prism Cloud?
So the one thing I would say is I'd want them to think big. And what I mean by that is that the organizations and have an opportunity to think about how they can manage their outcomes and achieve those outcomes. And the thinking big things is looking at being creative and really focusing on what a digital workforce can deliver. Where it's beginning to work for companies with people working from home, we certainly look at, okay, what's the next step that we can allow to choose? So the one thing I'd leave is think about how an intelligent digital workforce can help you achieve those goals, and think big about what it is in the creativity and how they can help you.
Well, Michael, thank you again for joining us today on Generation Digital Workforce to talk through Blue Prism Cloud and how it can really make a significant impact within our customers' environments, as well as how Blue Prism has leveraged this technology in a very positive way to support our frontline teams during this COVID-19 crisis. For Blue Prism, I'm Michael Marchuk. Thanks for joining us today.
You've been listening to Generation Digital Workforce. If you want to hear more about RPA, AI, and other cognitive technologies that are shaping the future of work, join us next time as we continue to go deeper on these topics with industry innovators and experts. To make sure you never miss a future episode, subscribe to the show in your favorite podcast player. And if you've liked what you heard today, please leave us a review. It's one of the best ways to help more people find valuable content. For show notes and more info, visit us at blueprism.com/podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.